Welcome to KUOW Speakers Forum. I'm your host, John O'Brien. In this extra episode, when he was 16, Azure Savage took a journalism class. He found he liked and had a talent for interviewing. As a queer, trans person of color, Savage had painful experiences navigating our education system. He decided to interview other students about their experiences. His efforts led him to write a book, You Failed Us. Students of Color Talk Seattle Schools, about the issues he and his subjects were dealing with. Azure Savage read from You Failed Us at the Elliott Bay Book Company on November 14th. He was then interviewed by journalist Marcus Harrison Green, the co-founder of the South Seattle Emerald. KUOW's Sonia Harris recorded the event.
Given the large number of white people who find positives to slavery or believe their children have a right to a better education than black students, do you think that as opposed to white ignorance, the problem is white commitment to white supremacy?
I like that. I'm going to use that now. Yes. Yes. White commitment to white supremacy. I like that. I think that I see a lot of white parents, and I honestly even overhear them at like my neighborhood coffee shops talking about how they don't understand why a lot of it comes to funding, like why if they donate money to their kid's school, why can't just go to their kid? Like why does it have to be spread out? Like I don't get it. Like I'm trying to give it to my kid, and to me that is just so selfish. I think that is so very selfish to think that any child has an entitlement to a better education than another child. Kids are innocent in all of this, and when you're taking out your own beliefs and own agenda and harming black and brown kids that also have parents who love them and just maybe can't donate to the school, maybe don't know about the honors program, maybe can't afford preschool, that's not their fault. And it's not the kids' fault either, and they shouldn't be the ones harmed by those beliefs.
The cows, Gus T. Renegade, the worthless Negro from Virginia. Did you hear that? Say, little Leroy is innocent, innocent black children, innocent non-white children. Are you serious? Anyway, Devontae, did you hear that? Anyway, the cows, Gus T. Renegade, in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the global system of white supremacy. Today's date, Sunday, March 15, 2026, so I have been told. The audio snippet that you heard at the beginning, that was a few pre-pandemic. How about that? But Azure Savage at the time, Azure Savage was a student in Seattle Public School at the time, and Azure was a guest at Elliott Bay Books to discuss a brand new book Azure wrote about racism, and racism specifically in Seattle public schools, and how non-white students are treated in this area, the liberal progressive bastion of Seattle and the Pacific Northwest. But yours truly was in attendance, front row actually, and I was able to, that was my question about, are we talking about ignorance or commitment to white supremacy? And the moderator was able to ask my question, and you heard Azure's response. And then Azure Savage was a guest on the Cows a few weeks after being at Elliott Bay Books in Seattle, right here to speak with us. You can go back and hear that in the archives right at the end of 2019, before the world collapsed with the pandemic in 2020. Anyway, I thought that was appropriate for our discussion today, revisiting the area of education and racism, the system of white supremacy. Gus T, I think a few months back, do a little research from time to time, was poking around and found a report White on White Research, a study of white qualitative researcher positionality among white participants. And all of that, this study looks at specifically when white people go to do research and talk to other white people. What happens, what things, I guess, are not explicitly stated in the report, are certain comments, statements, behaviors ignored or focused on. What happens when it's white people, white on white research, and specifically in this context, research examining racism education in Chicago public schools. How appropriate, just having the passing of Jesse Jackson. I suspect he spent a conversation or two discussing racism, white supremacy in Chicago public schools over all of these decades. Might even have a non-white child or two get to do a report on the significance, life and times of Jesse Jackson. Would have to learn at least one or two things about racism with such a project. Anywho, thought it would be great to discuss the report, some of the important aspects therein. One of the co-authors, and this report, importantly, one of the authors white, one of the authors non-white, black female specifically. Keep that in mind as well. Anyway, the white author of the report, co-author, is an associate professor of cultural and educational policy studies and social work in the School of Education at Chicago's Loyola University. Her scholastic work centers youth and educator experience of education policy and practice and contextual influences upon these experiences. Her two areas of research focus are equity-oriented urban education policy and student wellness policy. They got that policy in Chicago, the Black Student Success Program, that they were trying to make that a policy to correct some of the issues of racism and how they have devastated black scholars, pupils over the years. And that had a tough time as well in the Chicago area. Maybe we'll see if we have time to get to that as well. But so excited to discuss her report. Thankful to have her with us for this Sunday evening. Joining us live, Dr. Kate L. Phillippo. Dr. Philippo, are you with us?
I am with you. Good to be here, Gus.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, for sure. Thank you for hanging out with us on your Sunday, or almost spring Sunday evening. For listeners, I'm sure we have lots of folks, this is their first time hearing about your work. Anything you'd like to share with listeners about who you are and the work that you do out in Illinois?
Sure, and apologies in advance. Being that it's spring in Illinois, there's a thunderstorm, and I have a very unhappy dog with me, so my apologies if he pipes up. I have always loved working in schools. I got my start as a daycare teacher, as my work-study job in college, and just found schools to be really vexing in good ways and bad ways, both places where really powerful things could happen, and also places where really maddening and damaging things could happen to children. And my quest has always been to try to understand that. And I've been fortunate to be in environments where white people were not in the majority. It's sort of how I learned my trade, both as an educator and as a social worker. And these issues, especially when I was surrounded with really talented people, as I've been fortunate to be, still just really got under my skin. Why are schools such hard places to be? Why do such negative things persist in our schools when so many people want them to work? So that's what I'm doing here, and I'm just really thrilled that y'all want to talk with me about this work. Janice and I really enjoy doing it. It's not, I don't usually write about research methods. I usually write about the research that I do, but this seemed like something that we really wanted to get out there.
For sure. Important. Let's see. I've already stated, but we'll make sure it's clarified for folks who have not seen you. Mm-hmm. You are classified as a white woman. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. I guess before I get to my definition, quickly, you were talking about your experience, and you said that fortunately, as a white woman, you have been in a number of spaces where I guess white people are not the majority in terms of population. What significant things have happened for you as a white woman being in spaces where white people are not the majority in terms of population, number of people?
I mean, I can go way back. I was an elementary school student in Miami in the 70s, which dates me quite a bit. I had black teachers. I had a lot of black colleagues in my school, and I didn't know any better. That was just what school was there at that time. Going into my career, my first several jobs, I had African-American supervisors, which, again, was just the way it was. I hadn't had any other careers to compare them to. So there was just a tacit acceptance that the people who were supervising me knew more than I did because they did. And that was the space in which I learned. I would say, some of the things that came to me were my supervisors going out of their way to tell me when I had made a mistake that had been perceived in a way that was unwelcome by children or parents that I worked with. And, some of the conversation in the article that we're talking about gets at white fragility. And that wasn't a thing that had a name. I mean, it certainly existed at the time that I was learning how to be a professional. But I was just expected to take feedback and respond to it. And I'm really grateful for that was just normal. And I had talented people looking at me, expecting a response, showing me grace, but not letting me off the hook when I made the kind of mistakes that I imagine white people make a lot with children of color. So hopefully that answers your question.
Let's see, when you say working in some of these positions where you had a black supervisor, and I guess they would inform you if you made comments or conducted yourself in a way that some of the parents, whomever, they were not satisfied. I guess, can you give us details, and is it accurate? I don't know. I don't want to make assumptions, but were any of these incidents related to racism, white supremacy?
I mean, I think a lot of things in schools in the United States are related to racism and white supremacy. I didn't have a great understanding of family structures, and a lot of the families that I worked with, I worked in Evanston, and we had, at that time, refugees coming from Haiti, and we had rules to follow about signing people into class or signing people into and out of school, and sometimes there were extended family members who weren't on the list, and just dealing with those things in a diplomatic way was something, as a young woman, I had never learned how to do, and I just had to learn how to do them. So there are a number of incidents, I shouldn't say like a number of incidents, but just sort of like learning language, learning how to talk to, learning how to talk to a woman whose children were in foster care with the agency I was interning at, who we hadn't heard from the first 2 months that her children had been in care, and she called and wanted answers, which is completely reasonable. How do I navigate that in a way that honestly represents what the agency I was employed by was capable of doing while also respecting her dignity? I mean, those are things I feel really comfortable teaching people how to do now, but at the time I had to figure that stuff out, and I made stumbles as young adults will do, and particularly when, as a woman growing up, I hadn't been accountable for any kind of interactions related to race since it was so invisible where I grew up as a, older child and teenager.
Interesting. Even that quickly before we pivot, I guess two quick ones. One, this is Evanston, Illinois, right outside of Chicago?
Yes.
Okay. I was thinking maybe you were still down in Florida, but we've already pivoted north. Got it. For listeners, should know.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you telling life story. You did nothing wrong. Evanston, we've talked about many times, racially restricted region, long history of excluding black people. But two, the I guess them alerting you about these issues, or I guess even for our listeners, the Haitian folks, they've had a tough time with things for a long time coming to this part of the world. Did at any point when they were raising any of these issues, did anyone say that it was racist what you were doing?
No, no. I've had questions raised at different points. I'm a professor. I've had students I've gotten along with better or worse. I've had issues that have come up in schools that I've worked in. Very, very much pre-2020, the word racist carried such a heaviness to it that even, my impression as a white person in a privileged position working in an organization, basically anywhere in America, but particularly in schools, is that word is used very infrequently. I'm not sure how else to explain it than that, but it wasn't ever a word that came up. There were people that I worked with who were people of color, whether they were parents or students or colleagues, who had negative incidents that I look back on as instantiations of, at a minimum, structural racism, if not also interpersonal racism. But that was not, during my sort of professional coming up time, a word that was used with comfort in the spaces that I was working in by folks who may have been the target of racism or were wondering if they were.
Much obliged for the detail, Dr. Phillippo. Sure. In my humble opinion, I think that is still the case, where that word is not, especially now when the anti-DEI, like you might get arrested or caned or fired or anything bad could happen. Like you had better not say racist. Oh, man. Okay, speaking of racism, this program, the term racism and the term white supremacy, I use those as synonyms, and I use the same definition for both terms. That definition, a global system of people who classify themselves as white and are dedicated to abusing and or subjugating everyone in the known universe whom they classify as not white. Do you think such a system exists? Do you think that definition is accurate?
I'd say from my perspective, that system exists, certainly. The thing that I see and that I'm concerned about, particularly in K-12 education spaces and higher education spaces, is not people who are dedicated to subjugation, but who depend on it, who benefit from it, who are living in a system where it happens, where they're not held accountable to even acknowledge that it's happening, and who thereby want to view themselves as not racist people, even though they are benefiting from racism and may in fact be contributing to the subjugation of minoritized people.
When you say minoritized people, do you mean non-white people?
It's an interesting word. I will say one of the moments of grace I had with a colleague was where she took me to task for using the term non-white, which I was just sort of in my mind using it descriptively. And she said, "Why not people of color?" And I said, "I don't know. I really hadn't thought about that." And she said, "Have you thought about how it uses white people as a reference?" And I said, "Honestly, no, I have not. But it sounds like I need to, so I will." I should rephrase what I said before. Minoritized can mean a lot of different things depending on the context where you're in. So I'll just be more specific and say people of color, or, who can also be interpreted as non-white people.
Much obliged. Because I've heard that phrase, a bit of jargon, I might even say, has come in vogue of late, and I find it so curious. I do not find it helpful. Who are we? Oh, the victims of racism. Got it. They have lots of those type of terms where I feel like we just get further and further away. And also, for the record, I would, because Jane Elliott and others have castigated me about that term non-white, and for the exact same reasoning, saying that you are centering white people. And I say every time I clear my throat, if I do have my tea, I won't do it for the sound effect, but I normally get my tea and clear my throat and say emphatically, darn right, full stop, period. Because you have been saying already white people are invisible and whiteness is invisible and all of that. Well, then, hey, let's make sure we keep this front and center at all times, because people of color, that's not even a group. We don't have nothing in black person in Mississippi and a non-white person in Hiroshima. What do we have in common except white people smacking us around? Not much, I would submit, being people or whatever. But the people of color culture is just victims of racism. We should use terms that make that explicit. That's my opinion. But people I've had, and Jane Elliott, not just non-white people, Jane Elliott castigated me, and she used the exact same logic and the exact same replacement phrase. And I said, well, if I say people of color, then I have to say that white people are, or I'm not even saying, maybe we don't even say white people, we say colorless people. Nope. Let's make it simple. White people have centered themselves all over the world for centuries. Let's make sure we do that when we undo racism, because they are at the center of this whole problem. Am I being logical?
I hear what you're saying. I understand.
Am I being logical?
Yes.
Okay. Answering questions, very important, because I didn't even get an answer for the definition. The definition of racism that I supplied, is it accurate?
I see it somewhat differently, mostly because I see that there are people who are not consciously dedicated to enforcing racism against other people, but are benefiting from it, and thereby, and how they're benefiting from it is that they are participating in it without seeing directly how subjugation is happening. So that's the one thing that I would add on to what you're saying. I don't see that what you're saying is inaccurate, but that's one thing that I would say, just from my vantage point, is what I see and what I've learned about in my time on this planet.
Okie doke. And awesome. We'll get to some of those very issues in your report, because they crop up repeatedly in the same criterion that I just employed, logic. Things that we say should be logic based on evidence. We'll keep that in for Jesse Jackson's Chicago. He did say Women's History Month. I'll say from Mahalia Jackson's Chicago as well. We'll keep both of those in mind. You already told us you did not grow up in the Chicago area. This report that we're talking about today, I'll give the full title again: White on White Research, a study of white qualitative researcher positionality among white participants. What exactly was the purpose of this report?
Janice and I write about in the article, and it was very helpful to have a thinking partner for this. I'm just lucky that Janice is alive and that I got to work with her. But in this particular context, I was really stewing on some experiences that I had had in predominantly white education spaces with white families, which was just a little bit unfamiliar to me. It hadn't been that I had been working in schools that did not have such a large proportion of white students or parents. And even though these were folks that ought to be familiar with me, I write in the article about showing up at an interview and the teenage student I was interviewing and I were wearing the exact same jeans. But in one way, like, these should be people who are comfortable with me, the way that they were interacting with me, the way both children and adults engaged with me about race felt really strange. In that way, one of the things that we encourage folks who are studying schools and who are doing qualitative research, something that we encourage them to do is to make the familiar strange. And there I was feeling, surprised isn't even the word, just kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it. Just feeling really odd and disquieted by some of the things that people said very comfortably to me, perceiving me as a researcher who had a shared identity with them. And I wanted to look at that more. I was really interested in the issue of positionality, which has gotten more attention in education research in the last 15 years. It had always been sort of something discussed by experts on research methods, and it started becoming more prominent in a lot of write-ups of qualitative interview-based research. And I just was really thinking about that and not satisfied with what I was coming across in my own efforts to learn, and really struck by how positionality was either about white people being in spaces where most of the people were not white, or where not white researchers were benefiting from being in a space where they were doing research with individuals who shared their identity. And that also just seemed really incomplete to me. And I was thinking about that again today when I was rereading the article. Like, it's just a perfect example of whiteness, that like you're not even asked as a white person to reflect upon your own racial positioning when you're interviewing white people. Like, that somehow is just raceless, which of course is not true. It's as racist as it could be to me.
Fascinating. Context of white supremacy. Just want to make sure I kind of restate for listeners to make sure I didn't miss an important point there. You said that at minimum you felt disquieted and some other peculiarness around individuals classified as white like yourself, even dressed identical to yourself at times. You felt uncomfortable with them, some of the things that they were saying to you around racism, and you felt it seemed almost a certain maybe comfort that, oh, I'm talking to another white person so I can say these things. Am I accurately reinterpreting?
I can just say this, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And with this report specifically, white on white research, were you trying to solve a problem with this report research?
All researchers have to answer that question to some point, like kind of why should anybody bother reading this piece? I just felt like we weren't asking white people, we're telling white researchers, like, you only have to think about your racial positioning when you're with someone who's not like you racially. But you don't have to think about it when you are. That's like, why? I mean, and like, you know, this is kind of, you know, pretty nerdy, but like that it just shows sort of a gap in the available research literature that's there. But I mean, that gap actually means that white researchers who are going into schools and studying haven't been asked to think about those things. And then that's going to shape not only, you know, how they interact with people, but even the questions that they are asking and how they're making sense of what they're taking in, and then what claims they're going to make as researchers. So that just seemed like a real omission to me. I also just didn't know what to do. I mean, like, I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know how to explain it. I certainly didn't want the sort of racialized sort of excess of comfort that the folks I was interviewing seemed to be experiencing to overly determine how I was making sense of what I was hearing from people doing this research. You
write early on in this piece that I'd done decades of imperfect work to engage with my own whiteness. What does this mean exactly, if you can be specific, and did you pick out any specific ways that you have practiced racism in doing this work to engage with your own so-called whiteness?
This is a weird example, but you know, I've worked with a variety of students over the years as research assistants, And I was fortunate enough to work with a woman who identified as Black, who did me the great favor of when I would interrupt her, she would look surprised. As like I had cut her off, which I had. And culturally, interrupting is something that I'm very comfortable with, not just from a place of racial privilege, but just the way that people interact in my extended family. And it just got me, noticing that made me think about, okay, like how do I expect to enter speech with other people? And then I started paying attention in the classroom and looking at how do other people enter speech? Who feels interrupted? Who feels the power to interrupt and not have to pay attention to what they're doing? And just to proceed, who is not entering the conversation because the cues they're giving off are not being recognized? So that's something I actually make a big deal of in my classes in terms of talking about how people join a conversation. I don't want to make people talk. I'm not that kind of a professor, but I also do need for all of us to hear from as many people as possible. And I need my class to be a place where people feel comfortable speaking. But what I have heard from colleagues over the years is, you know, if people don't want to participate in class, that's their problem. Sort of like you're either motivated or you're not motivated. And I just don't believe that. I believe that there's a very complex system of verbal and nonverbal cues happening that do lead some people to feeling more comfortable speaking than others. And that means if there are people who aren't speaking, we're all missing out. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. That interrupting, something we talk about on this here broadcast on a regular basis. Woo, man. You write that tolerate, or some of the places that you have worked in, the academia, social work, these are environments that tolerate whiteness as silent operation. What does that mean exactly, the silent operation of whiteness?
People aren't held accountable for either racial slights or their lack of knowledge, patterns of referral or non-referral for special ed evaluations, how parents are handled, who is dismissed from a program and who is not, that there is a constant thread in school. I mean, I can think of a few exceptions, and they are wonderful places, but most of the schools I've been in, you know, preschool through doctoral programs, have this sort of narrative that, you know, people are rewarded according to their merit and how hard they work and how smart they are, where we're not looking at our expectations themselves as racialized, our sense of what it is to be hardworking, or even who has the space in their life to meet a white standard for working hard, and what that actually involves in terms of things like physical appearance, childcare, transportation, having other responsibilities that are distracting someone from the work that they need to do, whether that's work or the ability to sleep 8 hours a night, or the preoccupation with responsibility for other things in their lives, that like none of that's considered because we have this kind of crisp, clean image of what it is to be hardworking or smart.
Much obliged for your answer, Dr. Philippo. Especially when you gave the details to that answer about the silent operation of whiteness, or tolerating the silent operation of whiteness in these sort of environments, social work world, and then the academy, classroom, and such. And then, it's like I said, especially when you gave the example, I thought, man, it would have been, I think, so much more honest that these are environments that, this is what I mean when I go back to when I said in my definition, dedication. This is not these, and we can go to the two environments that you talked about specifically, social work and the classroom. Oh my goodness. There is like decades libraries worth of research. This is not no white people are not informed or unaware, where decades of deliberate, willful conduct with regards to the academy, like post-grad all the way down to kindergarten, in terms of willful white conduct to produce racism. We're talking Chicago, the super segregation of schools. Why do we even need a black student success program that is being vigorously opposed? Why do we even need that? Because of white. It's not because white people have tolerated. It's because white people have enacted decades of deliberate racism and social work. There are Chicago scholars who have penned brilliant works about the willful white supremacy in the field of social work, foster care, all of that. So that's what I mean. Like this, we are pussyfooting a little bit. We are greatly minimizing dedication. That's what I mean. Like when we look at the evidence, prison pipeline, that's not tolerating the silent opera. That is devastating generations of black people. Like, am I being accurate and honest again?
I mean, I don't have those libraries in front of me. I really want to emphasize that whether people are, even if they are committing acts that are exacting harm, and I'll give another example, something else that I spent a lot of time on, making a mandated report of suspected child abuse. They will think to themselves, I'm doing my job. My job, I've got told by the state of Illinois, I have to call this hotline because I have concern that this child is being abused, even though if we look at what the reasons are that they're making the call, many times there are vast discrepancies in what educators will see as harmful to a white child or to a black child or to a child of another racial identity that is not a white identity. They will think and they will believe and they will insist that they are doing something to be helpful. So that's the piece that I see and that I hear, is that folks, I mean, certainly there are times where people say really awful things or do really awful things, but oftentimes I see people who really truly believe that they are helping, when what they are doing is unleashing more harm upon children.
In the name of Devante, the helpful white person, I will just kindly retort, not to bog down on this one, even that it does not pass the logic test, because they are brilliant Chicago scholars who have done and I mean like decades of research, and even research to inform white people of everything that you said. Hey, you're not helping, you're practicing racism. Devante is being harmed. And she emphasized, even when white people get this information, they continue to do the exact same thing, and emphasize this is not a problem of ignorance, we're not aware, none of the above. That word I used at the beginning, dedication, but we will revisit. Pipeline, can't say that enough, pipeline. When white researchers, this is what you wrote, it's on page 4 of your document, when white researchers work in spaces where they are not clear outsiders, bias and power dynamics may not present themselves as visibly. White researchers therefore face additional different positionality work. My first question on this one is, when you say outsiders, what do you mean with regards to white people?
It's complicated to begin with because nobody has one identity alone, right? We have lots of intersecting identities. To be a racial outsider would be, as an example, a white educator who opts to work in a school where all of their children have a racial identity other than white. If I'm thinking about a researcher, so we'll take me. I conduct research in a school where the vast majority of students that I interact with are not white, where the school's leadership is not white, where the dominant racial group of teachers who are there are also not white. I being there would be a racial outsider. Even though I come from a culture of power and it's hard to be a racial outsider as a white person in America, in that particular space, I would not be viewed as an insider, I assume, by the people who are there. I don't have the same familiarity with customs of communication. There may be other cues that I miss. My racial presence may be noticed as different than that of other people who are there. So that's what I mean. I'm trying to think and also trying to find on the page where I said that, and I'm not doing very well at doing both of those things at the same time. I apologize.
Oh, thank you. It's right after, it's the bottom of the first paragraph, qualitative researchers, bottom of that paragraph, kind of that last sentence right there. Or that's not the first, sorry, that's not the first. It's in there many times. That's not the first instance. It's in there a few times. If you want the exact one where you say that, I can give that as well. But while we're
I just want to make sure I'm responding to your question.
Oh, for sure, for sure. When at one, I just want to point out within that, exactly kind of what you said. It is difficult when you're in a position of power to be an outsider. That's one. I just see a lot of evidence where white people, because they dominate, they go, I mean, South Africa, we have a whole so-called country where white people are super outsiders, but they have dominated for a very long time. And I've seen that sort of thing play out. They even have whole plantation scenarios where it's like 2 or 3 white people, plantation with hundreds of black people, and, you know, power is still power. The other, I guess, component where it continues where you say, where white, I'll read the whole thing again, where white researchers work in spaces where they are not clear outsiders, bias and power dynamics may not present themselves as visibly. White researchers therefore face additional different positionality work. How would the power dynamics of white supremacy racism be less evident in an environment where there are not very many white people?
I just want to try to find what you're saying. So can you, maybe I'm fixating on this and I shouldn't be.
Let's see. I'll see if we can nab it exactly.
That's
there we go.
Section heading. I'm sorry to be weird and nerdy, but that's my job.
I did have it correct. I should have just said page 4, where it says the subheading is positionality, a call for identity. So that first paragraph, it's the very last sentence.
Okay, I think our page numbering is different. Okay, alrighty. Okay. Please, I apologize. Please let me know your question one more time.
Sure. I said I gave my answer where I'm agreeing, difficult with white power, difficult for white people to be outsiders. And then I said, how would the power dynamics of white supremacy racism, how would they be less evident in an environment where there are not very many white people?
How would they be less evident?
Because you say they might not present themselves as visibly. So why would they be less visible in an environment with few white people?
Okay. What I mean in that particular sentence is not exactly what you are saying back to me. What I mean is where a white researcher is in a space where they are not outsiders. So let's take that teacher who opted to work in a school where the majority of children are not white. Let's put that same teacher now into a school where the majority of children are. And that's what I'm referring to in that sentence. Okay, I'm relieved that I'm asking for some reason other than my brain falling apart. If there's not a clear sense of outsiderness, and many white people just haven't had the experiences of being in spaces where they are in the racial minority among the people that they're with. Part of white privilege, right? If you're in a space where everybody's white, you don't have to really think about race. You can even maybe think that race isn't happening, which of course is not true because it's in America, so of course race is happening. So What I mean there is that racialized power dynamics are not as evident in a space where the majority of people are white, where a white teacher doesn't maybe have to think as much about what they're saying, how they're saying. I mean, of course, they're not accountable to thinking about race as much as people who are not white are required to think about race and how they present themselves. I hope I'm making a little bit more sense here. So if you are a white researcher,
can I pause for a second
you are
right
in
here?
A space,
Can I pause for a second? Because you said so much. I just want to make sure that I clarify. Thank you for getting that correct for me. So if I got it correct, you're saying that it's when white people are in spaces where they're around other white people, that's where it becomes more difficult for them to see the dynamic. That's what you were articulating here, and I just misread it?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
This is one of those where I say, man, we do so much of this. And even in your response right there, like, oh my gosh, some of it was just saying things that are flagrantly not true, just based on evidence. Some of it is even in we're calling the use of the word minority. Like sometimes we're calling white people there the minority group, and then sometimes we call non-white people minorities. Like, come on. The language and how we articulate racism, white supremacy is a massive part of the problem. And I articulate this is not accidental. White people do this sort of thing all the time. And this is one of the deliberate ways that white supremacy racism operates, not being accurate and even just the pussyfooting, using lots of jargon and verbiage so that you end up being confused. And the problem is not even accurately stated. And I can't emphasize enough, some of this is the jargon, some of this is just flagrant lies where white people do not have to think about it. Like, and because that's said so many times in the report, white people don't have to think about racism, white people don't have to think about racism. Like, man, like that is astronomically offensively false. Like I even have to reorder my questions here. Like, let me go all the way. That's for Mahalia Jackson. And hang on a second so I can get to my question. That's an interrupt right there. Man, and a massive one. For Jesse Jackson Sr. and Mahalia Jackson, you quote, and even at the end of the report, I have to go all the way and skip everything, go all the way down to the end of the report here. You quote the National Museum of African American History and Culture. I have to give listeners the quote so they don't think I'm trying to pull something slick. So this is on page 14, subheading for Dr. Phillippo, Implications for Qualitative Researchers. Very first full paragraph on that page. Whiteness lurks in research as it does everywhere in the U.S., similar to what she just said. As National Museum of African American History Museum exhibit tells visitors, persons who identify as white rarely have to think about their racial identity because they live within a culture where whiteness has been normalized. And as soon as I read that, for listeners, they'll recall this normally people classified as white, like our guests, they will quote someone who is deceased, like James Baldwin or Frantz Fanon. It'll be a black person who is really revered now that they're dead, but saying something that is not true about racism. This time it's put on the Museum of African American History and Culture. And even within our dialogue here, we've been talking Evanston, their history of excluding black people. There is no way that happens without white people constantly thinking about racism, white supremacy. In fact, in Jesse Jackson's Chicago, white people are the most race-conscious people on earth. They know exactly where the border is. We just read Dorothy Roberts' horrible book, and that's what her dad talks all about in Evanston, Chicago, is using that quote and even the whole presentation of white people don't have to think about racism, a way to avoid holding white people such as yourself accountable for their racist conduct.
I think we're talking about the word have to in two different ways, which I think is very is very informative, right? Have to can mean that you're let off, like you are not expected to, which I think is what that quote means to me, the quote from the National Museum of African American History. And I'm not, okay, I'm saying the word museum twice there. That's a little troublesome. But have to can also be used to mean that, like in a more active way, have to. I know I'm not saying this very well. There is have to where it's like you get to opt into it, and there's have to where I am urging someone and saying you really have to do this. You really have to try this food that I think is so great. You really have to see this movie that I found so amazing. Those are really different ways of talking about have to, and I appreciate the difference between the two of them. My sense in this sentence that we quoted from the National Museum is a sense of feeling obligated, of feeling an expectation. I can say as a white person, you know, I was not made to think about race. I have chosen to think about it because of the life experiences I've had, because I care about schools and what happens in them. And schools are inherently racialized places where racial harm is done every day. So I chose to think about that and to learn more about it. But if I hadn't wanted to, and I had wanted to go on thinking about it whenever I felt like it, or just saying that's somebody else's issue, that's not my issue, I would have gotten away with that. People get away with it every day.
And you said you moved from Florida to Evanston, Illinois?
I've lived a lot of different places in my life.
You moved to Evanston, Illinois?
I lived in Evanston, Illinois. I'm not really sure why we're talking about that when this article is about my research.
That said in Chicago, but for this specific context, Evanston, Illinois, a racially restricted region, which he already knew. Hang on a second, you're interrupted. That's 2 times interrupting. Evanston, Illinois, a racially restricted region, and Chicago, where this study happens, it's not like I'm pulling Istanbul or Johannesburg. Your study is set in Chicago. I'm talking about the Chicago area. These 2 areas, notorious for racial so-called segregation. Do you think you can establish a racially restricted region like Evanston, where they have willfully excluded black people, and not think about race, or even, I'll use your language, not have to think about race, racism, white supremacy?
I'm really sorry, but I'm not understanding your question.
Do you think individuals classified as white can establish a city, town like Evanston that is a racially restricted region where they have willfully excluded black people? Do you think this can happen where the people classified as white do not have to think about race, white supremacy?
I mean, Evanston's establishment, Evanston was established at a particular time, but Evanston is also reestablished every day, right? That every day people conduct Evanston. Every day people get up and live their lives and interact with their neighbors and send their kids to school, make decisions about how they want to spend their money, how they want to travel about the city. And it's a city I'm very familiar with. I live very close to the border, in fact. I think that there is enough distance from the time of a racial boundary in Evanston where people have the option of not thinking about it if they don't want to. And, you know, you talked about kind of pussyfooting around language. We have a lot of language that allows people to avoid race talk if they want to. And it's easy to do that if that's what people feel more comfortable doing. It's not what I try to do, but it is an option that is available, particularly to people who experience racial comfort in their lives. And, you know, Evanston's a really interesting place in terms of the conversations about reparations that have happened there, the conversations that have happened there about detracking different areas of instruction at the high school. Some people are very engaged around issues about race, and other people choose to not engage.
I did not get an answer to my question at all. And when you say engage about race, it makes me suspect that you're talking about they pretend or alleged to be doing some counter-racism work or speaking against racism. Maybe they've been to a demonstration. That's not what I said at all. I'm going to just go back to my question. Do you think it's possible for people classified as white, like yourself, to set up a town like Evanston that is a racially restricted region where they do not have to think about race, white supremacy?
Yes, I do, because it's happening. People have a town where and Evanston is just one town. There are millions of towns, and we've gotten quite far away from why you invited me to talk. So, and I'm running out of time, so I want to acknowledge that. It is a town where people can be in a school where the majority of children are white if you opt to live in a community that meets that description. There's an active discussion going on this year in Evanston about which schools to close, and that they want to reopen a school in a predominantly black neighborhood because a school was closed in a way that did harm. The way that people are talking about that, from what I understand from the folks I know who live and work in that community, is that some people want to talk about race in that conversation, and other people just want to talk about the school in their neighborhood and don't want it to be about race, even though I don't see how it isn't.
I don't see how it isn't either. I will just say for the record, we did read James Lowen's Sundown Towns, and the evidence seems pretty overwhelming that I think Dr. Philippo just lied to us flagrantly in saying that you can construct, James Lowen, white expert on this subject matter, where I'm pretty sure Illinois is talked about in that book quite a bit, he talked pretty flagrantly about white people actively thinking about, and hey, you can't be ignorant about racism, white supremacy, and live in no sundown town. You will get in trouble with your white neighbors. Beyond that, you, in your report, you write that many critics argue that the concept used in your report of white fragility, that this phrase, jargon, actually is a strategic and massive lie, a way to shut down a conversation that reveals truth about racism, white supremacy. In your white-on-white research, did you find that white participants were truly ignorant, or were they using defensiveness to protect their white power?
Good question. Words like truly, it's hard to say, right? I'm going off of what someone I've just met is choosing to say to me in an interview where I am recording them. So I have to believe them, but I also don't know what is in their hearts. I don't know what they've chosen to not say. I feel like I spoke with a lot of people who wanted to talk about whiteness being sort of what's often called reverse racism, that they were somehow being discriminated against by having their school closed where they were comfortable where they were, and they were going to have to go someplace they didn't want to go, or they were being discriminated against because they had to compete to access a high status public school within Chicago public schools. They were comfortable saying those kinds of things to me. It's a great question. What were they being defensive against is what I'm trying to think about. And my impression was that white people are not used to not getting what they want from public institutions. And when that didn't happen, there's a great example that we write about Cal, who talked about the system of applications for high schools in Chicago, and Cal framed it as a system that required or that used race as data to determine who was admitted, when that's not part of the policy at all. But he saw it that way. My sense is he felt that as a white person he had to compete, but he didn't want to, and he then framed it as, he had to compete because he was white, that he was somehow like being punished for being white, which is not something that I believe was happening, but he did.
I remember Cal vividly from the study. This is the one where she kind of at the core of the research, in my view, where she talks about he had made these earlier comments about the school setup and he didn't like it, and I have to work, exactly what she just said, I have to work so hard to get into a good school, and talking as though these other children are less worthy. Exactly what Azure Savage, exactly what she said at the very beginning, but she was talking about Seattle, not Chicago. You right. My question, if the children in your study, like Cal, already know that Tier 4 means white, affluent, and South Side means less intelligent, isn't it a professional lie to say white people don't recognize the process? Isn't the use of their coded language actually proof of a very high level conscious awareness of their power, even amongst the white children?
I think lie is a pretty strong word.
Is it true or false? Is it true or false? People do lie, and particularly about racism.
I can't disagree with that, but I'm not sure what is productive about talking about what is a lie or what is true or what is accurate.
Oh, that sounded like a question. Pause right there. I will answer that one right now. Jesus Christ. I already told you in this conversation, white people are frequently dishonest, and one of the ways that they are, that's the primary way that they practice white supremacy racism. Individuals like yourself, you even talked about in your work that you're rarely challenged on being a white person and how you practice racism. Maybe that is happening today. Perhaps you should embrace it and not be defensive. But I already told you, white people, one of the main ways people like yourself practice racism, deception, and they will use to deliberately, intentionally use inaccurate terms to confound people like myself. And this is one I can only conclude. You got white children talking to you, Dr. Phillippo, and you are not a teenager. You're not 10. You're not 15. You already told us, man, like you were around in the 70s and 80s. So, I mean, you have some experience. You have a doctorate degree. You have white children talking to you with sophisticated expertise about their understanding of racism, white supremacy in Chicago, and a geographic understanding of white power in Chicago by their teens. That is not ignorant. Let's ask this. How do you think old Cal got his understanding of the dynamics of white supremacy racism in the Chicago area?
I think it's a really interesting question, and I think it is both sophisticated and not. I want to say this right, so I'm thinking, and I'm not going to say anything perfect. That's not what human beings do, or myself as a human being. There is a pairing, and I think Cal represented it the most powerfully of the students that we talked with, but he by no means was the only person. And Chicago is a particularly challenging place in this way because race, socioeconomic status are so intertwined here that people can think of them as the same thing. So he was very comfortable saying that, sort of like switching back and forth between talking about smart and talking about a location in the city and talking about race. I don't think he was thinking really hard about that. I think he was just doing it. And that's one of the things that I do see with white people about race is they can be effortless in making those leaps and not be taken to task about it.
Do you, in terms of well, I guess one, before I get to the not taking to task part, I didn't get an answer about the professional lie. So let's put it this way. Is it being truthful? Did you tell us the truth in saying that white people do not recognize the process or race, white supremacy, racism? Did you tell us the truth in saying that they don't recognize or understand all of this?
You want me to say now that I didn't? And this is where I'm starting to question the how much of an interview you want to do with me versus what you would like for me to say. And I'm not sure that I can help you with that, but I'm happy to talk with you about what I have learned or what I have done.
That is not accurate at all. I really, the same thing I've said repeatedly is that was an interrupt to just an answer to my question about truthfulness. And I've told you that is very important. And if you did tell us the truth, even this for listeners, anybody, if they ask you, did you tell us the truth? If you were honest, it would just be a quick, yep, I told you the truth. That right there. Wow. Okay. No problem at all. I have other questions. It's so much material. And not being defensive.
I'd like to respond to that if I may.
Let's hear it.
I don't try to lie. I don't claim to know everything. What was written in that article by Janice and myself is what we believed to be true. So I feel like you want something more than me that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to give you, but I want to be able to answer your questions. I must say I don't have infinite time. I thought this interview would be about an hour long, so I've got about 15 more minutes that I'm able to speak with you.
Well, then please don't say that anymore. Let's be efficient and answer our questions. And you can also be efficient, answer the question the first time so I don't have to go back and ask 15 times. Thank you. You mentioned colloquialisms like good school or safe as race-devoid terms that white parents use to signal racial preferences without naming them. If they are refined enough to use these codes, isn't that proof that white people are fully aware of the system of white supremacy that they are navigating and bragging about sticking it to? Direct quote from the work.
That was a painful one. I don't know if I can say. What I can tell you, Gus, is that people say those terms. I believe that they are saying them because they do not want to use specific race language, as you and I discussed earlier this evening. There's a discomfort that they have there that I think comes from both the discouragement that many people encounter in American society from using race language. I think sometimes human beings aren't thinking about those things. They actually think that they're thinking about safety, or they think they're thinking about safety or school quality or whatever you have. And there's interesting research about how parents decide what a good school district is, or what they why they would choose to live in one community versus another, and that they're not using official data. They're not looking at performance. They are looking at things like community racial makeup. But that's not stuff that most of us have had the opportunity to get fluent with talking like that, or that we're in space where we are allowed to talk about race without being asked to, tone it down or whatever. So, I can't say that every parent that used a racially devoid colloquialism was aware of the subjugation behind that. I wish they were. I think we'd live in a society that was able to make progress on some of the issues that we seem really stuck on if people could be more self-aware. But, I'm only writing about what I know and what I've learned, which is incomplete.
I bet you have a whole bunch of black. Didn't you say that even some of the areas that you have moved into right now have been so-called gentrified? Isn't that true?
The areas that I wrote about in the article, gentrified during the time that I was living in them. It's part of what it is to, it's interesting. How white people move about a city in Chicago and how that manifests in dynamics and patterns. White people do unwittingly participate in gentrification. The two communities that we write about changed really dramatically during the time that I was familiar with them. I did not ever live in the neighborhood of the school I call Granger, but it's a neighborhood I spent a lot of time around. The neighborhood of the school that I call Vista changed very dramatically over the last, I'd say, 50 years, is now a pretty racially and economically exclusive neighborhood, and it was not that way when I first came to be familiar with it.
Even there, just for listeners, I said it's so, that's all I can conclude is that this is a lie, and a willful lie, and an important lie, because so many people insist that white people, they're unwitting, they don't know, it's unbiased, they're not aware, they don't think about racism. How in the wind? Chicago, man, when Dr. King went there, when Mahalia Jackson went there, buddy, white people was thinking about racism. I have no idea what generation white people discontinued their thought process about racism, but same dynamic. Not all white people are racist, even though she didn't say that. And or if white people are racist, they are ignorant. Very consistent, and I submit humbly that has got to be an absolute lie just based on the evidence. Man, let a whole lot of black people get hired at their job and see what, even at Northwestern, and see what happens. Matter of fact, never mind. Get back to the report. Never got to the report. Even the term, oh, wait a minute. It's two. I want to read one section and then get a different question. One section, where you talk about some of the responses of these parents. Granger, where you just mentioned this now exclusive, they don't have too many Negroes around there now. Granger parents turned our discussion of why and how they resisted the merger to their critiques of their supposedly stolen access to a good school, a term they used frequently, offering no further explanation. They frequently railed against the district's decision to change the rules of who could access Granger. Hey, we put all this nice spiffy stuff here for a reason. From a lottery school that students physically accessed with no district provided transportation to an open enrollment neighborhood school. They demeaned the new policy as unfair. disingenuous, which is what I've said frequently this evening, and psyops, psychological operations, and the people making the decisions is ignorant, manipulated, and unable to perform basic arithmetic. These policy problem frames extended beyond the studies at hand and became central themes to which participants returned unbidden in subsequent interviews. All of that right there. One, thank you for including all of that, but wow. To me, all of that seems like the same coded racist language as little Cal might even explain why Cal talks the way that he does, and the language about why I started this. And then, thank you so much for telling us about this. Do you still reside in Granger area now?
No.
Oh, okay. How far are you from there?
I've never resided in the Granger area. I'm not, 5 miles.
Wow, I'm sorry. But do you think this is the same sort of racist coded language as Lil Cal, 14? I think was he 14, Lil Cal?
Yes.
Okay, thought I so. Is this the same sort of racist coded language that Lil Cal gave about the tier system and him thinking that we got these undeserveds coming in here getting my good education?
I'm thinking. The language that the parents were using, to me, was directed at the school district rather than at parents or children. And so the question there, to me, Gus, is are they using language that has a very strong air of racial trope to insult an entire organization, to insult individuals within it? When you read that language, you read it as racist, and that is important. That is how you experience it. So when they're saying those things, and they're saying those things in public spaces, other people are experiencing it the same way. So what I think, I'm the person writing the article that 12 people, including you, read, but how is that coming across in that space to the people who are in those conversations? I do have to say I've got time for one more question before I've got to go.
Well, you didn't even answer that question because I didn't ask you if I thought it was racist. I said, is this the same sort of racist language?
You asked if, so the answer there is a yes or no. And I think that language carries a lot with it. Sure.
So difficult. And I just
you want a yes or no. You don't want a complex answer. Okay. I'm sorry. I've got time for one more question. If this is the
you
question,
interrupted
then
me again.
Go.
And even, if this is a group of white people who you just said, they went in and so-called gentrified this area, racially dislocated non-white people, and now they are upset because they're trying to make a policy to correct years of deliberate white supremacy racism in the school system. Man, they aren't supposed to be here. They don't deserve this. How else is one to logically process this? This is not one, well, I like vanilla. I think vanilla. No, I'm just trying to process. You have a group of white parents complaining about non-white students. Got it. I don't think you hear me. I think you're just practicing deception because that's what it's been a lot of throughout the report. You use a lot of metaphors woo, they are falling off every sentence, literally. Elephant in the room, which is a really old and tired one, just for old time's sake, let's let that go. That whiteness hijacks efforts. Whiteness is always on the table, even the term whiteness itself. Why, in a scholarly report about something serious, do we have so many metaphors that obscure what we're talking about, the system of white supremacy racism?
what I will say about the scholarship around whiteness, Gus, and I want to really thank you for engaging me and challenging me, and I feel like I'm become aggravating to you, and I apologize for that. I'm answering stuff the best I can. The scholarship around whiteness is scholarship that is being conducted by a racially diverse group of individuals, including a lot of scholars of color. So that is the language they're using. Academics don't always try really hard to make the concepts that they are working with accessible. It is something I strive for in my work, and I feel like I have missed the mark here, and for that I apologize. My goal, and Janice's and my goal with this work, was to get people thinking about how unacknowledged racial dynamics in research can shape the process of inquiry and the process of making sense of the words that are coming out of people's mouths.
Okay. Just because non-white people are involved, white people have no problem correcting non-white people in any other context or setting and telling us to shut up, we're experts, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't know why that wouldn't be the case with racism, particularly with the language about how we articulate the system of white supremacy racism. But be that as it may, I can only add as well, with all of the metaphors and the constant insistence, even in our dialogue this evening, that white people are unaware and unwitting and ignorant in one of the most deliberately segregated so-called cities in the world, with the accompanying segregated suburbs as well. I can only conclude exactly what I said. Professional lying and deception from Dr. Philippo, and even the term whiteness. I can't say that enough. The term whiteness should be retired. If we are talking about willful and decades in all areas of people activity, that is not whiteness. Whiteness did not hijack anything. Individuals classified as white did the hijacking and the racism and the so-called segregating and all of it. John Burge for Chicago got in Jesse Jackson and Mahalia Jackson. John Burge is not whiteness. And I can pause there. The report that we have been chatting it up about this evening, White on White Research, a study of white qualitative research positionality among white participants. Suspected race soldier Dr. Kate L. Phillippo, much obliged, for 5 miles from the Granger region in Chicago, Illinois. Much obliged for hanging out with us this evening.
I appreciate the conversation. I wish you well.
Context of White Supremacy, Dr. Phillippo, Loyola University in Chicago. Much obliged. Wowee, folks. Wowee. Made me work so hard. Get that information, hopefully constructive. Man, words, and answering questions. Like, I had to work so hard to get even questions. And I would have had to even go back and get like at least 1 or 2. Like, wait a minute. Words are super important. And one of the Fuller said that the primary method that white people use to maintain the system of white supremacy racism is deception. Being deceptive with words, and all of that may be one of the greatest lies in the world. White people are ignorant about racism. White people don't have to think about the white classification alone. We just heard Eric Kaufman on the program talking wild just days, I was going to say a week ago, but it hadn't been a week yet. But we just had Eric Kaufman on the program talking wild from London, no less. And he talking about, well, I'm white other and all that. Man, that is one of your primary responsibilities as a white person. Thinking about the system of white supremacy. We got too many dark people, and we didn't hire too many dark people, meaning one. We got too many dark neighbors. What's going on here? We got too many dark children at the school. What's going on here? Where are the ICE people at? Where's Chicago Police Department at? What's going on here? That's all you do. All areas of people activity all the time. What do you mean white people don't have to think? How do you construct a racially restricted region where the same thing we heard, little cow, little 14-year-old cow who complaining they're going to bring these niggers from the south side into my school. Little cow would have been on the crew. Any niggers come in here after sun go down. You ain't going to see sun come up. Hey. Might not make it even if you come before the sun go down. Let Cal catch you on a bad day. Unwitting. Come on. White people, they got to say that. That I guess if you want people to think that you're constantly stupid, and the problem is that we have to educate white people, that just constantly sets you up for failure. That is not what this is at. And I thought that was so especially tacky. Her putting the National Museum of African American History and Culture, putting that line in their mouth, that I'm not saying it. This is the National Museum of the Negro History saying. White people don't have to think about it. Please. I bet you let that museum get right. They better say something like that. Get DEI'd on out here too. Be looking at your budget. What you got? You got too many Obama exhibits up in here, maybe. Yeah, we don't like all that. You're talking about slavery. Yeah, we don't like. You got shackles up in there. Yeah, we don't like all that. We don't like all that. You better say. White people don't think about it. You had better come up with all kinds of inaccurate things and hope white people don't think we done said nothing too incendiary. No disrespect to the National Museum of African American History and Culture. I was trying to go. Had to know. Retract. I was not trying to go. I had already registered. I had tickets, plural. I was going with a group of non-white people at the DC yoga retreat, and bam, COVID smacked all that down. But I had the tickets before COVID. Man, I'm done. Take a commercial break. I'm done. I've forgotten all about. I could vomit. Break, and we'll be right back. Context of White Supremacy. Visit the museum. If you live in the D.C. area, or if you get an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C., the race soldiers may close it down. So visit the Museum for African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. Make sure Gus is not disparaging their effort at all. The cows.
Got another term on there, VGQ. What does that mean? Victims Guaranteed Qualification. Now, that keeps you from getting in arguments with other black people, particularly on television, which I get sick of that. Black people shouting. We get into our ghetto thing once we get on television and get wound up. And we start all yelling at once. And the racists sit there smugly and just look. They watch the tennis match, so to speak. Right. And black people are shouting each other down, talking about, you don't know what you're talking about, and so and so and so and so, and we go into our Amos and Andy and Sapphire Act. Okay? VGQ means Victims Guaranteed Qualification. Guaranteed qualification to do what? To give your opinion on anything about race. Don't care what it is. If you're on there with Minister Farrakhan, or you're on there with Mike Tyson, or you on there with Miss, what's her name, Williams, the lady that had him put in, recommended that he be put in jail, or you on there with anybody. So you don't cut the other black person down. Now, I don't even like that term brother and sister, even though it's been around for about 30 years. Well, I ain't going to talk about the brother here, no. See, we haven't reached that stage where we can do that. See, we got to crawl before we walk, but we don't miss any steps. Don't say you are what you're not. Don't say you feel something that you don't really feel. You don't really feel that he's a brother. I usually use the expression, I don't like anybody in here. I say that to all audiences. I haven't been taught to like anybody. I've been taught to dislike people. Been taught that. And then they're taught to dislike me, so it's just compounded disliking. Haven't even got to love yet. All right? So what we do is minimize conflict, try not to hurt each other. So a certain thing, that's what a code is for. It's a stopgap. It keeps me from saying something against you. You say, well, don't you agree with what this person just said down here on the other end and whatnot? That person has VGQ, Mr. Donahue. I keep using him because he's one of the most prominent TV people. Right? But the main thing you do is try to stay off of a radio program or TV program or even a neighborhood stage program, you might say, where you spend your time shouting back and forth at other black people. Nothing is getting done there. And when it's done on television, a lot of black people just get up from the TV set and go on in the kitchen somewhere once that shouting starts. Yeah, they get disgusted. Say, they say, oh, here we go. They started off okay, but now they're doing a job on each other, and I don't even want to hear it. So just don't do it. And you cut it off. The cutoff point is that person has victims guaranteed qualification. You spell it out what it means. Meaning the person can say anything about race that they want to, and I can say anything about it that I want to. You are guaranteed that. You earn that as a victim. Simply by being a victim. Now, if a white person says something, that's something else.
Whew. I hope we have 17 plus years of that demonstrated here at the cows, not squabbling, arguing. You don't know, Leroy, shut him. We don't do that. I don't do that. If it's time to argue and squabble, you done lied to us. You didn't say the correct thing. You're not being logical. Whew, it's going to be a spat with a suspected racist. Invest. If you think the cows is constructive, hit the blog racism-notes.blogspot.com. racism-notes.blogspot.com. PayPal button in the top right corner. You'll see the links below for Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, and our Amazon wish list. Much obliged for all of the investors over 17 plus years, hopefully worthy of your time and energy. Even the spectators. Great many. Man. Oh, and we're here tomorrow. I should have said that at the beginning. Monday, 1 hour early, which I can, for the most part, not grouse about. I do not like to disrupt my routine. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, our lock scheduled time. But to get hopefully a double dip tomorrow, 2 programs, early start, 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time, 6 p.m. Central Daylight Savings Time, and 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time for Monday, March 16. Here early, white guest, talk about white supremacy, racism in Michigan, right next to Illinois, Midwest. Do our little Midwest segment for Women's History Month. I got Dr. Phillippo representing for Women's History Month as well. Cousins. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to have to use that somewhere in when we have white guests to ask them, did you lie? Fuller said, deception is the primary method of practicing racism. We should be asking white people in some manner, did you lie? Did you tell the truth? Are you being honest? There should be some sort of questioning about them being truthful, yay or nay. And really, yay or nay. Absolutely. Are you being truthful? Yay or nay. Yay or nay. And truthfully, just actually retract for one, even though you should never really have to retract for saying truthfully, but retract. Logically speaking, I want you to imagine a scenario. Someone is talking to you and they say, Man, let's say it's your attempted care mate or someone you're in a attempted marriage. You find out, man, Gus T, you lied to me about ever been to prison. You did 10 years. I say, lie is a strong word. Look here. Imagine, same scenario, you got your care mate. You say, look here, Gus T, you lied to me. You did steal $50 out of my purse. I seen it on the camera here. Lie is a strong word. I got a bunch of them. You want one more? Listen, one more. Look. Gus T, you lied to me. You did get that heifer down the street pregnant. Lie is a strong word. Come on. You supposed to really get a good beating now. No hitting. First time, last time. Although that's kind of close. That's kind of close because, man, you're not even going to deny. Lie. That's wow. You ain't even going to say, I didn't take the $50. I didn't get that heifer down the street. No. Just lie is a strong word. I fudged it a little bit. Just a smidge. Come on. Woo! And what was this about? What she said? That's a strong. And she didn't even say. No. I didn't lie. I think we even got a double neck. I have to replay that back to see because I think we got a double neck. She said and all this was about. Did you give us a professional lie? That's my first time even putting that professional lie. Did you give us a professional lie? Saying that these white people, they don't know. They don't think about it. She didn't say, no, man, I didn't lie. This is 100% facts, Gus T. I don't know what you're talking about. She didn't say none of that. Ooh, that's a strong word. Ooh. Look here. Let me get one for Jerry Sandusky. Man, Jerry, you are a child rapist. And Jerry, child, that's a strong word. Come on, man. It is the beginning of true knowledge to call things by their proper name. You lie, and I mean, hey, fellas, cousins, ladies, Women's History Month, you better, ladies, I couldn't think of no other way to say it. You got to tell me, and then I'm insulted for the National African American Museum of History and Culture, National Museum of African American History and Culture in D.C. I'm insulted. Dr. Welsing, Dr. Welsing didn't say nothing bad about them. She talked about the symbolism of the architecture built by a black male, but she said, yeah, go check it out. Learn, study racism, white supremacy. That was my plan. You gonna hang that. That's what you gonna hang on them. Yeah, white people, they don't have to do no thinking about racism. A lie? And then you're going to say that over and over in Chicago. The most segregated. That's what Jesse Jackson Sr. spent his whole life battling. White dedication. Jesse Jackson could have trumped this a long time ago. White dedication. You can't say white people, they know nothing about racism. Jesse Jackson plucked your nerves for a good 50 years in Chicago. You cannot say, we racist. What? Niggers is getting messed over in the South Side? What? And you had Obese. We didn't even bring him up. Did you hear the audacity of that white heifer? that white suspected race soldier who professionally lied to us, because she didn't even say no. Like, I could stop right there. Man, you ever ask anybody in a system that's ran by deception, and this is anybody, you ask Leroy, you ask Gus, you ask anybody, hey, did you lie to me? You ain't heard the no? You got your answer. You give me the scenario, somebody asked, did you lie to me? And they can't just say, no, brother Gus, what you mean? Now, I done told some whoppers in my time. Whew, don't get me started right now. No, I did not lie to you. Okay, I got my, now I might still watch because you said you done told, I'm going to watch. But you talk to anybody, your child, anybody. Are you lying to me? I'm really just waiting for the no. They got to do all that. You got your answer. Gotta ask. It's gotta be at least one question. Got to be at least one question. Are you lying? Because they lie all the time. I'm telling you, that I can't even. Are you being dishonest? Like, I could have said it that way. I gave like about 2 seconds, because after this report, and this report isn't even that long, folks. This is not no book. This is like 16 pages, I think. It's 16 pages. You can read this in like 20 minutes. Hey, reading is more important than watching television. If you are not, I'm not going to sit down and read no Urugu. That's 500, 600 pages. Whatever. I'm not fitting to read no dissertation like y'all. Get out of here. I'm not fitting to read no 300-page book. 16 pages. And in fact, if you don't like reading, you could easily break this up. You could read like 8 pages today, and that'll take like, even if you're the slowest reader, 8 pages, about 30 minutes maybe. We could say 30 minutes. It shouldn't take 30 minutes, but we'll say 30 minutes. And in 30 minutes, bang, there you go. But they have lots of reports like this. This one is not very accurate, but they have lots of reports and things like this that are not super long, and you can be learning, studying, and getting kind of accustomed, training your brain computer to read serious material about white supremacy, racism. And then you can pick out the deception. But that lot, because it's so massive, so many of us insist white people don't do no thinking about racism. They telling racist jokes all the time, putting racist towns together, keeping black people out of the racism. You move from Florida to Evanston. She had the audacity. What you gonna get them asking me about Evanston and me living in no racially restricted region? I don't know what that got to even do with the conversation about white people in Chicago complaining about Negroes accessing their good schools. You don't know what that has to do with the conversation. People who are ignorant about your geography, you can pull up a map and look at Chicago and then Evanston. Okay. And he was like, I ain't lived in no Granger area. What you talking about? I ain't lived in no Granger. I said, oh, okay. How far did you live from Granger? Woo, nice follow-up. Nice. Thank you. I said, well, how far have you lived from Granger? About 5 miles. Come on. If you have any sort of, you don't even have to be athletic, man. Unless you got like bunions, corns, maybe you got some disability issues or what have you. But man, my grandmother in her 60s would leisurely walk 5 miles. That ain't nothing. In fact, you got so many tubby folks, all this ultra-processed food and stuff, we should walk 5 miles, get some exercise. She can walk the granddaughter. I ain't been, what you mean lived in that? I ain't never lived. I'm outraged you would even say such a, oh, it is right over the, yonder, we drive through that. Come on. That's what I mean. What you want me to say? No, I can't say you being dishonest. I can't say that you fibbed. I can't say that you fudged. I can't say that you fooled us. You professionally lied. Then the cover that she tried to add on this, This report is co-authored with a non-white person. You heard her say in the discussion, she said, well, I wrote this project with non-white people, and that's the language they got all these metaphors too now. You know, whiteness is on the table, and the elephant in the room, and whiteness is in. Hey. I've been around white people all my life. White people like her, Dr. Phillippo, have no problem telling us, really, they glory in telling us, shut the hell up, Leroy. Shut the hell up, Lakeith. Shut the hell up, Obama. Isn't that what they said? Isn't that what they said? Him trying to go and talk before Congress. Shut the hell up. You lie. Shut the hell up. They love to tell us to shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. We the expert, and it could be about anything. Nuclear physics, calculus, academics, anything except racism. Why all of a sudden now it can't be, well, look here, children, colleagues, coloreds, whatever. We should try to use more accurate language. We're writing a scientific report here, and elephant in the room. That's not the most scientific phrasing if we're talking about the system of white supremacy, racism in the local region of Chicago. We should, more accurate language. And then we got lots of them. Whiteness is going to hijack the project. What are we talking about? Dill and Reb hijacked the project. Tim McVeigh hijacks the project. Chicago. Ted Kaczynski hijacked the project. Whiteness, come on. They're trying the same thing with the National Museum of History, trying to put it all. Well, they said, they reputable, they more reputable than you, Gus T, which is true. And I said that's the same pattern. It would normally be that sort of conduct, but it would be attached to a deceased black person who's often revered. It might be, like I said, James Baldwin is a popular one. Frantz Fanon, might be Dr. King. But importantly, they will deliberately cherry pick something that victim of white supremacy said or wrote that is not accurate. And that's super easy to do. They could do that for anybody, any victim of racism, because we're all confused. They could probably go back and find something, Dr. Wells, she said she was a Marxist-Leninist. They could go and find that and say, hey, now, your scholar, Dr. Wells, she told you now, Marxist-Leninism, that was the way. She was right, Neely Fuller confused her. They could go and say something like that goofy, because they were like, well, she did say that, not that, just that she did say, yeah, I was a Marxist-Leninist, so that part would be true, They just leave out she renounced all that and got it more accurate. Come on, got it accurate, not more. I got it accurate. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. But yeah, they love doing that old kind of stuff to go find, it's easy to do. We are so confused. Put it on some victim or the museum, either one. It's so trifling. Professional lie. See, make sure, and she tried to, I said, she co-authored this report. Let me see whose name is first on it since it's co. Let's see. Did I even have to look? She co-authored the report. Her name is first. The black female co-author, Janice L. Nolan. Her name is second on the report, as it should be, white over non-white, same way it would be if I had co-authored this report or any of you non-white people. But when I reached out to invite Dr. Philippo as a guest on the program, she attempted to have me bring Dr. Nolan on the program as well. She has her own doctorate degree, qualified victim of white supremacy, VGQ, and she co-authored this report. I go, no. And that is our general pattern. I generally, it's been a few times, but I mean a very few times, where we have had multiple people on the program. Maybe they worked on a project together or something like that. I think we had the co-filmmakers for that Tim McVeigh horrible biopic that came out a little while ago, Hollywood Filth, that came out last year. But most of the time it's just one person. And particularly I am all the way resistant to having a suspected race soldier on a broadcast alongside a victim of racism. That is the worst. Oh my God. We are so defensive for white people. That is how we have been trained. That is centuries of white people thinking about white supremacy, racism, and the conditioning of their Negras. I've seen that dynamic over and over again. Dr. Welsing talked about that. Who do you think you are? This is a great white person, and this is my friend, and we hang out. You don't talk to her like that, and she didn't lie. And I wrote this report, and we put that in all of that. You move all of that to the side so that you don't have to spend half of the interview or even 20% of the interview or most of the interview. Excuse me, ma'am, I was asking this question to the white person. I've even had that dynamic where I ask a white person a question, and the non-white person intervenes to answer the question for them. You have to specify, like, every time, this question is for you, Dr. Phillippo. I need a white person to answer this question, and the non-white, it is the worst. In fact, we had Millie McGee as a guest on the program in 2009, and she brought along Wes Swearingen. Now, this is kind of the reverse, because it would normally be the white person, and they bring along a non-white person. This was the other way, non-white person. She brought along a white person. Wes Swearingen worked for the FBI during their COINTELPRO era. How am I not going to talk to him seriously like a suspected racist? This was in 2009. We started off when we got back on the air, like, immediately knew what we were doing. For sure. So we get them on the program, and I'm asking him serious questions about his time at the FBI and the exact dynamic that I just told you about. Like, what are you can go back and hear it. I'll share it. But she said, what are you doing? I done brought this good white man here, and what are you doing talking about him? And I can't believe it. Wes, and he wrote a book about me. This is a white man who worked at the FBI at the time where they're accused of, did you participate in killing Dr. King? Did you participate in killing Malcolm X? Did you participate in killing Fred Hampton? And on and on. Did you participate in getting Geronimo Pratt locked? And he talks about some of these cases in his book. How am I not going to talk to him? I'm supposed to talk to him like he's a white ally? He's John Brown? Same thing with this suspected race soldier lying to us today. I'm supposed to talk to her like, yes, this is a white ally, white friend in Chicago. Anybody, you all make it out to the Illinois area, get to Chicago, you look her up. She'll be glad to take you out on the town, get you some Chicago deep dish pizza. Maybe y'all catch a Bulls game, go see the Michael Jordan statue, talk about a little segregation, Jesse Jackson, you all go pay your respect. Like, come on. She didn't even write a report that's serious about racism. You're going to tell me you got 14-year-old white children who are talking to you with a sophisticated understanding of white supremacy, racism, at just like Neely Fuller said, by the time they 14, 15, got it. And you go, well, white people, they don't have to think about no racism now. What? They sitting here complaining like they're going to bring these niggers. I can't believe this is going. That's the same thing Dr. King faced, 60 years ago, 65 years ago? What other word I'm going to use other than dedication? And that she took issue with that at the very beginning about the definition, which she didn't answer. I had to go back. Is it accurate? Well, I don't say that now. Dedication, man, white people, we not conscious. The same thing. That's why I said, what else can I say other than a professional lie? Because you keep insisting, we not conscious. We're unwitting. We don't think about it. We just got that luxury. It don't even come to mind, even in the racially restricted regions. A professional lie. Even I still got full of code on that one because I ain't called her a liar, right? See. But let's see. Anything else I want to about? That's one that I always try to watch for. If you're talking to a white person and non-white people are present, you really have to be mindful of that. For me, it's especially bad. Black male privilege. I have found that everybody tends to be hostile to black males, especially if you are trying to reveal truth about white supremacy, racism, and/or you are questioning a person classified as white seriously. Oh, man. Might not necessarily end up being, difficult or challenging. Might not necessarily, but man, I have seen a lot of times where, yes, it can and does, where the non-white person is defending and getting hostile and all the rest, and even sometimes where they want to speak for that white person. You say, hey, whoa. This question was for Dr. Phillippo. I appreciate that you have your opinion, and you'll have time to share that, I'm sure, but this is a question that I have for Dr. Phillippo. And/or sometimes I just have to say, it is solid sometimes to preface it by saying, I need a white person to answer this question. I don't have to do that since I have, we're on a program, it's just one person, but if we're out in public, I need a white person to answer this question. Dr. Phillippo, are you a white person? And if so, my question is, Boom, 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 boom. That way, if it's a non-white person present, you kind of already, sit down. Just need a white person to speak here, and we don't need no defendant. Don't you talk to them? What you talking about? But even had that, we had Noel Ignatieff on the program. People, never mind. Talk about that later. Let's see. She said she is rarely challenged. She literally wrote that in this report, that she as a white person is rarely. That's one thing I want to say. This report is co-authored. The black female's perspective, Dr. Nolan, it is not really here at all. Like, it is very much from the perspective of Dr. Phillippo and I as a white woman and how they were responding to me and blah, blah, blah. It's not even Dr. Nolan, as a black female, my thoughts on this project and seeing it. Like, did she do any of the questioning, or was it just Dr. Phillippo? And if so, like, where was her chunk at? Where she's like, yeah, these is a black female and these are my observations. And, maybe I tried to do some of this before and they told me to shut the hell up. I was angry and aggressive and all this old stuff. Like, it is that's why I say, like, hey, everything is centered on individuals classified as white. Everything, all areas of people activity, beauty standards, academic everything, research standards. So the terms that we use to talk about racism, white supremacy, they should reflect that as a problem, yes, that we are trying to correct. But yeah, don't try and now come and we're going to have folks come in, don't say racism, which she doesn't in this report. It's whiteness, over and over and over, whiteness. System of white supremacy, racism. Even that is a part of the metaphor, a deliberate, willful dishonesty in this report to camouflage that white people are dedicated to white supremacy, racism, and even some of what she's talking about when these white people go to interview other white people and things that are, I guess, not discussed and all of that. Some of that is just because, I assume that you are also a white person. She said we're even dressed alike. So, yeah, you are white. You are a race soldier. I am a race soldier. You know what I'm talking about when I say I don't want them. But sometimes that's all I gotta say. I don't want them people in our schools. Those children. She called some of dumpster kids. Trash. That's what Dr. Kenneth O'Reilly said. Trash. Negroes is trash. And then come back and go, well, white people don't think about no racism. I was going to get to the racist jokes. Did you hear any racist jokes, Florida, Evanston, and white people? They do any racist jokes? You're in these so-called gentrified areas where white people complain about Negroes going to their school. Any racist jokes in your area? But she was scared out. And even that, she said in the report she does not get challenged on racism, whiteness, as a woman classified as white. You come on a program with someone red, when she lied there and said that you not even talking about my report. I done read page, number, paragraph, and everything from your report from beginning to end, not just from the intro or the first page or so. And then, I ain't gonna talk about that. I done read the whole thing, which it's not that long. That's not bragging. And given explicit quotes, questions, all of that. He goes, you done deviated from my report talking about them excluding Negroes from the place that I moved to that I already told you, yes, I live there. And then, look. She said, I moved from Florida, racially restricted region of Evanston. I lived a whole lot of places. Oh, where else she lived? Well, I didn't stay in Granger. How far did you stay from Granger? Oh, about 5 miles. So you lived in a racially restricted region, and then when you moved to another area where you said they so-called just gentrified, booted the Negroes. But white people, even you, don't think about racism so-called. But even that's not true, because you wrote this report, so you do think. You write about it, think that's your whole profession. And then your living choices, you're going to have a hard time convincing me using logic. Someone classified as white moved to a region where they didn't even allow Negroes to live. Then you moved to another region where they booted out the Negroes so that more white people could stay there. But you don't think about racism. You're going to have a very hard time. If you believe that one, I got a bridge to say. I got 3-4 of them. That right there would fully. That's why I said, what else can I say, man? professional lie. Professional lie. And plenty of them. Any hoodles. We will be here mañana. Not the normal broadcast time. A teaspoon early. What is that? Oh, see, messy. I hate that. I hate them kind of programs that are out of our regular broadcast time. So I think it's, and it's only an hour. There we go. 7 p.m. There we go. I hate that. I hate that. I hate it. So it's 7 p.m., but it should be worth it because hopefully we'll get to do a double dip. So it'll be 2 programs. So, you know. But 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. It feels even odd saying it. 4 p.m. Pacific tomorrow, and then we'll double dip, see if we can do it correctly without killing myself. And then we'll be back on our regular schedule, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, normal broadcast. You check social media for the updates. Hit the blog to invest racism-notes.blogspot.com. Let's see. Retired firefighter in Florida, do you have a quick comment before we get ready to wrap things up?
Greetings, Gus, and anybody else who may be listening. I was just listening to the program, and the word dedication came up, and if that's not unusual on your program, and it's a lot of white people who come on your program who have a problem with the word, but I do consider it being very, very accurate. Minister Malcolm mentioned on a speech decades ago about how can so few people dominate so many people. In order for that to be accomplished, it has to be a large amount of dedication in itself. So the word is very appropriate to racism, white supremacy, and the practitioners of that effort. I also just want to say on some commentary on that other previous program that you had with the it was still a question about whether he was a white male or not, but he kept insisting upon improvement, the word improvement, and I haven't heard not a non-white person that I listen to speak about racism in the term of improving it. Our intent is to demolish it and replace it with something else. So improvement doesn't come up at all with myself, and I think that there's a lot more people who think that way in a logical way. That improvement is not the issue. The issue is to eliminate racism, white supremacy, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Let's see. Much obliged, retired firefighter in Florida. Have you been lying to us all these years about your participation in the DCS program in South Florida with the non-white children, you and Mr. Clark? Have you been lying to us about your participation?
That is ironic that you even brought up the DCS program, but because I was going to comment yesterday on it, but I didn't get a chance to. That we started it up again. We had some issues that we had to work out, and Mr. Clark finally worked them out. But to answer your question, no, that's a dedication to overall to end the system of racist white supremacy, and in part to invest into our children, into black children, non-white children, would be vital into eliminating the system of racist white supremacy and replacing it with a system of justice. It has to take place. we cannot accomplish this without our children. And so it's a very important thing to me.
Much obliged. I didn't think so, but I just wanted another illustration when you have someone who is being truthful about what they do, and you ask, are you lying to me? Generally, no. That's all you have to do. And we move forward. Like, now if I think, I still got some suspicion. Now, I heard him say no, but I ain't seen no children. I ain't been to the DCS program myself. I ain't talked to Mr. Clark lately, so I don't know. I'm going to watch him and see. Maybe he got us. But if I don't have no reason for that, he didn't. No, we move forward. Now, I didn't hear a no. I'd have had a whole lot of, like, man, firefighter that got us all these years, and he ain't done nothing with no children. Probably even no children in Florida. He sitting around watching TV or whatever. But that's all it is. It's real simple. It's not difficult. And if you don't hear the no, you got your answer. That was right. Eric Kaufman that he's discussing the. You have to. Gus T could be wrong. I do make errors about racial classification. I concluded he is not white, aspiring to be a white person, racist. Those are the people that I hear talk about so-called progress. 1,000% correct. For me, it's such an anathema. I mean, WTH. Either the problem is solved or it is not. Period. Like logics, man. Logics. Like you told 1,000 racist jokes yesterday. Today you told 990. So we making progress. What? Come on. Either racism exists or it does not. Period. That is the way that we should be thinking about this. Not. Oh my God. We get to the year 3080. We making progress now. I mean, it was a time now. White people, right. They told about 1,000 racist jokes a day. Now we only tell about 700 racist jokes a day. So you give us, another 5,000 years. Hey, we have this racism thing licked. Maybe. Come on, that is upsetting. If that's the case, you just dedication. That's what you need to get back to. Dedication to white supremacy, and that should even stand out for a lot of people. The consistent this is not a one-time thing. This is not isolated to a region. This is all over the world. White people saying we do not want black children to have access to quality education. What is up with that? Like, how is it that it's got to be that we got to have black children in the most ramshackle, destitute schools, worst teachers, all that? And if anything looks like it's even trying to work against that or change that, oh man, you got reverse racism. She said it, you got reverse racism. Oh man, oh that Obama, oh that Jesse Jackson, oh the Department of Education. Matter of fact, we're gonna burn that whole thing down. Come on. That should stand out too, man. You have generations. This is not a one. This is like the white culture, really. Deprive black children of it. That goes back to the reading thing too. Deprive black children of anything: playground, water, books, school, parents, food, Devante. That's white culture, man. Even the children, like she got children. That's what I said, man. You are lying to us. Ain't no other way I can logically process it. This is not my truth. Again, this ain't no subjective. This is what else can I logically conclude? You got you got the white parents bragging, using their language, I'm going to stick it to the system. They want my white children to go to this old lame school with all these old lame Leroys and Lakeisha from Southside, Obama's cousins. I snuck my white children into the good white school. They're not supposed to be, but I can. You got that. And bragging about having done this. This is the sort of thing that they lock up tons of black parents for. They, use somebody else's address and all that old sort of thing to get their child in a better school. And we seen what you did, Miss Jackson. You're going to jail. They got tons of kids all over the continent of that sort of thing happening. She got white parents doing that sort of thing in Chicago, bragging about it. They didn't think about racism. And it's getting my child away from the nigger children. And then you got, little, like I said, little 14-year-old cow, white, mad. Little niggers coming to my school. I don't believe it. Ugh. Coming from Southside. Ugh. Obama's cousins. They're not supposed to be there. They don't even deserve. They're not smart like me. He said that too. He said they're not as intelligent. Sounding bell curve-ish. They're not as intelligent. They don't even deserve to be in school with me. I'm white. I'm supposed to be here. It's supposed to be for me. At 14, that's like ninth grade. 14, which is exact. I mean, like to the number. Fuller said by the time they 15. Yeah, I said it's before that. Like, woo-wee. Man, I think by the time they're about 10, 9, 8, they got it. They got it. She talking to somebody at 14, they polished, got it, refined, I'm not even saying negra. Said them down in the South Side. They call them dumpster kids, which is still name calling, but call them dumpster kids. Trash. They ain't supposed to be at my school, taking up my space, taking up my air, getting my good lead-free water. Anywho, and I think they have a lot of, particularly black female educators in Chicago, because they have so many, black people have, for many, many decades. I think that is probably a part of this too. The fact that there's a lot of black students in Chicago, and then you have a lot of black educators. Dr. Welding, you have a lot of black educators in the Chicago area. I think that is probably a lot of this in terms of why there would be angst towards Chicago public school system and them doing any sort of old janky policy to try to make corrections about racism in Chicago, and particularly the harm that has been done to generations. And I mean, like, all the way back to Ida Mae Gladney from The Warmth of Other Suns, like 100 years of black students being harmed in Chicago. Anywho, I wanted to make sure I went back. There was, yes, there are many reports. They have a program currently operating in Chicago. It's called the Black Student Progress Policy, which is supposed to be this effort to correct all of the racism in Chicago, years of it. But same thing I said with the African American Museum of History, that it would be difficult for them to say anything too explicit about like to have Neely Fuller Jr., something like that at the museum, because, oh my goodness, we'll get defunded. We'll get shut down. We'll get in all kinds of trouble. They might sue us or anything, I said they better be, what my man say down in South Carolina, we walking on eggshells. We ain't going, we don't do, shh. You seen they denied Dr. Welsing tenure. Shh. We're going to find some respectable white people to quote. We ain't going to say nothing about no white supremacy, and we just do quality. Well, like I said, I'm not disparaging them, but I know they can't be too. That's what it's called. I had to make sure I got the name of the policy in Chicago. It's called the Black Student Success Plan. That's what they have in Chicago, and they have reports about this where they, like, lawsuits to dispute all of this. White people saying, "Oh no, we don't want no black student success plan." Same thing, DEI, saying that, hey, we being victimized. We don't want you messing over white people. You can't have no black student. I don't even like the sound of that. What you mean, black student success? Why not white student? White students matter. White lives matter. Why we got to have black student success? I don't want no black student. Who said we need black student success? See, then that's another now. Now, if white people didn't think about racism, why would they have a problem with the black student success plan? Who has a problem with successful students? Stand up. Black students in Chicago, they just getting over on white students. They getting all the goodies, getting all the scholarships. They're the only ones that get let in Northwestern now. Come on, man. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. I got to see the lawsuit for this really quick. Then I'll get a young academic who is with us listening to all of the, professional lies from our guest, Dr. Kate Phillippo. The black student. Oh, let's see. Here we go. So this is from 2025. I was going to see if they got a more. I'll give you the CBS report. White House threatens to withhold funding to CPS, Chicago Public School System, over black student success plan. The Trump administration has frozen billions of dollars in federal funding for colleges and universities and now is setting its sights on the CPS. The White House has specifically threatened to withhold federal dollars over the CPS Black Student Success Plan, claiming it is discriminatory and violates the Civil Rights Act. A complaint earlier this year claimed CPS was using the program to discriminate on the basis of race. The investigation has not formally concluded yet, but the Office for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Education sent a letter to the school district last week saying that they believe the plan is discriminatory against students of other races, invoking a key decision by the U.S. Supreme Court banning affirmative action in college admissions and demanding that the district abolish the initiative completely, said Mila Kompolova, a senior reporter for Chalk Beat Chicago, a nonprofit newsroom covering education. So, some of the goals of the plan are to double the number of young academics, meaning black male educators. I feel like I could stop right there. What? Have you lost your cornbread eating mind? You want to do what? Who said we need Leroy in the classroom? I'm going to castrate him right now. Who said we need young academic in the classroom? Who said it? Who said it? Speak up. Who you going to... I could see white students, white parents, everyone. You going to use our tax dollars and put Jesse Jackson Jr. in front of my white child? I'll burn the whole school down. Let's see. It said the goal is to double the number of black male educators. Look here. From 2 to 4. Reduce disciplinary actions against black students. There should have been black male students, but whatever, such as expulsions, and teach about black history and culture. Now that last one, if it's going to be like John Burge, Fred Hampton, Abraham Bolden, Mahalia Jackson, all right, right on. And I mean, it's a lot for that. Dr. Welding, it's a lot for Chicago. But I mean, I don't want to get no like Kente Cloth and, whoopee for Chicago and we Mike Jordan and hey, that thing can, gotta be serious about that thing. But anyway, that is, you can read and get more. This, like I said, this is another one. See, now if white people didn't have to think about race, hey, black students, hey. All right, we gonna finally, that way I ain't got to worry about Leroy raping my daughter maybe. Hey, all right, that's beautiful. When I have to get the welfare, that's beautiful. I was hoping y'all would get your act together soon enough. Why wouldn't that be the thought? Not, hey, you cheating us. No, I don't want to see no black teachers. No. Matter of fact, I'm gonna sue you to stop it. You need to stop it today, right now. That showed me you thinking. You're thinking, constantly thinking. And like I said, white culture. We are opposed to educating black children. That's all I can conclude. But all over the world, that's all I can conclude. Young academic in the classroom, or no, the white women, like Dr. Philippo said, no. Especially if you ain't trying to get no date, you ain't trying to go out and hook up and do a little hanky, well then get on out of here. Young academic.
Thank you, Mr. Renegade, for the program. I love this show. You are absolutely correct about the deception, but I find that these people with the system, they are using an algorithm, which is like almost like adjusting the temperature to like 72. And if the temperature, they allow you, if the temperature falls below the 72, something will automatically like kick in to get the temperature back up to like 72. But it's a whole code that these people are using, and we just confused about the confusion of the algorithm that they're using. I was removed from an assignment earlier this year for teaching the children that the school was on a brownfield, which is like a polluted area, and they got me out of there real fast. But I'll end my case right there. Any questions for me?
Dang, privileged black brother. I'm sorry to hear that. I thought you were going to say that you messed around and, I was in there being subversive. Boy, I had full of code book and, Asada and ISIS papers. And, boy, I was doing it. We was making bombs. And I thought he was going to say something wacky and said we were talking about the pollution in the area. And, boy, they kicked my hind. I was not quite, because I was thinking, oh, wow, that's responsible, right? Like we want good air and, all of that, and water, that's responsible. That's a big problem. They're talking about that in a lot of areas. Like, why is that? Now, I don't know. Did you call it environmental racism? Is that what you called it?
Not at all. I just was trying to teach them about the periodic table, and we were learning about lead, and we were learning about mercury, and we ended up talking about a brownfield, and they made sure that they got me out of there really, really fast. Also, I had, I don't do the thing with the women with like riding the elevator, and I was always the one to like take the steps, so I don't think I was like a good fit for the school because I was not like, I didn't talk to the woman at all. So they make sure they removed me, and now I'm just a Negro in a basement with no, I'm afraid to complain about the temperature in my classroom. The temperature in my classroom is 51 degrees, and I'm afraid to complain about it because I don't have that much money, and I cannot afford to be removed to another assignment. And literally, when they removed me, I still have the keys to the classroom. They didn't even ask for the computer back. They just said they canceled everything online, and they said I'm not allowed to even be on school premises.
Black male privilege. They always find some way of, like, you can't just get fired. Like, you got to get banned from the... I'm sorry. That is totally inappropriate laughter, but woo! Man, like I'm automatically banned on site, but like, wow, just, and he wasn't even talking about racism. He was talking about lead, which I think is, geez, that is super important. I had just said they won't even let, well, I said, Cal said, you're not going to come up in here and drink all my lead-free water? I just said, like, and he said, I'm trying to, hey, man, we got the lead. That's real important. You don't want to mess your brain computer up and be like Freddie Ray. Out of here. We don't need none of that. I'm sorry. Woo, for Freddie Gray, and a terrible thing to waste, Harriet A. Washington on or at least my top 10 best books of all time. So important. She talks about the significance of I don't think Harriet Washington would say, hey, now, make sure you don't tell the children nothing about lead. Whatever you do, don't bring that up at all. What? Reminded me of the book Agnotology, Agnotology, The Making and Unmaking of Ignorance. The whole, just all of it, the concept, because they made up a word, and all of it. They made up that word, agnotology, but lead is a significant portion of this book because they talk about how white people have known the dangers of lead for like well over a century. They have known about this, and they have deliberately went about the business of making ignorance around the dangers of lead. Make it our guest is and make it confusing. Take something that is not subjective, that is absolute science. Oh my God, that lead stuff will mess up your brain computer for life. They'll take something that is a scientific fact and lie. And, well, you can't really tell. It's confusing. Hard to say. That type. And that's just one example where they do this, but it's many. But the whole time, I was a lecture. The whole thing was about agnotology in a system of white supremacy racism that is primarily ran, maintained, refined by deception. In fact, Freddie Gray, man. I went to Milwaukee last year. What I said, schools, same thing. And Milwaukee, majority black people make up the predominant population. They're the biggest racial group in that area. They got all them schools. Ooh, can't even wash your hands. I didn't say don't drink the water. I said don't wash your hands in the water. Oh, they didn't have soap. That was why. They didn't have soap and they had lead in the water. That was it. They didn't have soap and you couldn't wash your hands. Couldn't drink the water because it had lead in it. Couldn't wash your hands because it didn't have the soap. Yeah. But that's Milwaukee, where they got all the black children. Sade Robinson graduated Milwaukee Public High School. But that sort of environment where you can't even talk about it. He said, I didn't even bring up Freddie Gray. I didn't even bring up racism. I hope you didn't bring up Harry Washington. A terrible thing to waste, even though it should be promotion. You get that black boy a raise. Wow, he went above and beyond. Did you see that? I haven't even read Harriet A. Washington. You see what she said about the lead? That's amazing. See, they put him in the basement. You better not say nothing about the temperature. Black male privilege. Black male privilege. Wow. Man, I don't know. Part of me wants to wow, that's really admirable. I don't remember any teachers. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but I don't truthfully remember any teachers talking to us about now. Lead is important. Test your water. See, what it reads. If you got lead, don't drink it. Be careful. Don't take super hot shit. I don't remember nothing. That man, if I had in particular now, he said he'd even add the racism component. Particularly if they had added the racism component to it, oh my God, I would have remembered that instructor's name for the rest of my life. Oh my goodness, we're gonna do a toast every year. Good old instructor Leroy. I bet they didn't fire him by now, but man, he told us about checking to get. We got that lead in the water, and they especially dumped that on black people. And man, I do that before. I don't drink no tap water now. Keep us confused, man. That's stunning, though. They don't even want the little black children to know. We didn't tell that. That ain't in the lesson plan. Who told you to go in there and talk about some lead? And we didn't tell you to do that. We were talking about the periodic. Don't you sass mouth. Get up. Say lead is on the periodic table. Basement. Man, black male. I don't even know what to say. So is it you can't talk about lead or? I can't get up. They got the little white girl. She won the Nobel Peace Prize over in Europe for doing all that complaining about climate change and the environment, and you messing the planet up, and our children, they won't have a planet to live on and all of that. And she got all kinds of awards and recognition. You got old privileged black male educator. I try and do a little discussion about lead. I done about got fired again. And I don't hobnob with the white women, so I'm definitely, I'm for sure about to be fired. Man, that black, man, I just said, the Chicago program, Black Student Success, they supposed to be getting people like him, and we filing a lawsuit. We don't, that's exactly who we don't want in the classroom. You're going to come in here and talk about lead and the weather. Who do you think you are? Woo. Good effort, young academic. Wow, that is, I'm glad I do not have children in school. If you can't learn about lead in the water, like, man, that is, why are we in school? What are we just Romeo and Juliet? That's what we here for? Man, Harry Potter? That's what we here for? Like, Jesus, we can't even. Anyway, we'll be here. Man, tomorrow, Flint, Detroit, where they also got lead in the Negro's water. Global system, but 1 hour early, unfortunately. Not hopefully too bad because it's just an hour, but man, I do not like the, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We will do it up, hopefully constructive, for our Monday. And again, all of this, the payoff, hopefully, will be double dip. We can have 2 programs. Hopefully, both will be constructive. We'll see. Without killing myself. Have a safe day. Get through to Tuesday, and then we'll be back on regular schedule, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. But we will make it do for tomorrow. Hopefully, worth your time and energy today. Again, I can't, man, like, that should be routine. Like, when we're putting our questions and thinking about talking to a white person, like, this system is primarily maintained by deception. That should be kind of a regular. When you talk to a white person, are you being dishonest? Are you lying to us? Ask them, and then, like I said, just and the big thing, same thing you heard me observe with retired. Let's see. Young academic, have you been lying to us all these years about white women engaging you in sexual activity in your academic career?
I have not. I'm afraid of white women. I do not want to be next to them.
I just wait for the no. Shouldn't take no 5 hours and hemming and hawing. Well, what do you really mean by sexual activity? We got to think about that. I'm just waiting for the. Nah, man, what do you mean he's white women dangerous? Right on. Wait for the no. We should regularly ask white people, like, whoo, that is sound clip right there. You ask a white woman, white man, white child, are you lying to me? And lie. That's a strong word there, Brother Gus. You ain't even asked me, am I fudging? And she still didn't even come back and say, am I being truthful here? Come on. Come on. Professional. And that's the big, I can't say that enough. That's why. That is exactly why I said it that way. That's the big one. That is, Hitler said, you say it often enough. That's why she had to say that over and over and over in the report. She said it over and over she said it from the very beginning to the very end, literally. Because the first thing she said, definition of racism, then whoa, Brother Gus. That dedication, whoa. I think you got a whole lot of white people. They just unconscious and bumbling and stumbling, and they don't think about all this out in Evanston. We don't think about all this, man, out here. Nah, man. Yeah, then we not quite dedicated. And then we got to the end. She said, yeah, man, white people, we don't have to think about all this. We get in our racially restricted regions, and, hey, that's the luxury of being white. You don't never have to think about no racism and all that old fool talk. Professional lie. Nobody thinks about race, racism, white supremacy more than people classified as white. Matter of fact, one of her used to be white neighbors, previous generation, Robert Roberts, Dorothy Roberts' white pappy, he thought about racism, white supremacy all the time. Collected 50 years and 25 boxes worth of pornography on white people and non-white people having sexual activity. Now, said, I don't do no thinking about racism. I go watch interracial pornography at 5 in the morning when you can go to jail because pornography was illegal then. I go watch interracial pornography with black girls at 5 a.m. But I don't think, and matter of fact, and they tell me, I try to join the different clubs and things, and they tell me, you can't join unless you got a black girl. He said, oh man, I got to get a black girl? And he got him a black girl. Several of them, in fact. But they don't think about, come on, the professional lie. That's the big one. That's the big one. I got a bridge to sell you. I got 5 bridges to sell you. White people don't think about racism. White people is ignorant about racism. Matter of fact, Gus T say you got 2 massive lies. Not all white people is racist. White people is ignorant about racism. And you see how they work together? Is not all white people is racist, and if they are racist, they're ignorant. What in the hell? That is not logical at all. At all. At all. Any hoodles, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, mañana. Much obliged for folks tuning in. Hopefully worthy of your Sunday. White people lie a lot. And Dr. Phillippo, we went from when I meant to say that when I invited her to be a guest on the program, she was so enthusiastic and excited, and oh my goodness, I get an opportunity to talk to you niggers. And remember, it reminded me, so many folks have said over the years, like, man, these white people, I think they expect to come and have like a bunch of black people like, oh man, you're the coolest, swellest white person since John Brown. Like, wow, we just appreciate you. A white ally. Like, that's what they think it's going to. Then when it's like, no, we're going to have serious things. Like, wait a minute. Whoa. Who are these things? Look, nigga, I got things to do, and I'm not going to talk to y'all, and I don't even have time for all this. I got to go. Like, she had tried to dip on us, like, early, like, whoa. And the reason I'm going to, you sitting here asking me about Evanston being a racially restricted region, that ain't got nothing to do with my work about racism in Chicago and white people not wanting black people at the school. That ain't got nothing to do with what we talking about. Where I say in the report, I live in an area that's been gentrified. Again, for people who don't know your Chicago geography, get a, or you don't even have to get a map. You can just do the Google thing. How far is Evanston to Chicago? And that'll make the point. Shout to Northwestern. When Gus T, how you know all this? Have you been to Evanston? Yes. And Chicago. Anywho, we will be here tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Invest. Racismnotes.blogspot.com. PayPal button, top right corner. Hopefully construct, especially we've been here for 17 years. Like, oof, can't be wasting time doing nonsense. That's it. Sobriety would be best under conditions of white supremacy. Man, we need high function. You got high skilled deceivers, master deceivers, to try to use logic and decipher. Hey, you ain't even just tell me. Are you lying to us? You ain't even just, nah, man. I ain't, what do you mean lying? What are you talking about? Never got a nope at all. We're going to need high-level thinking to be paying attention, picking out what does it mean to be white so we can solve this here problem. Creator, we ask that you remind us, stop saying not all white people are racist. We didn't talk to one today who would qualify. Remind us, stop name calling people classified as black. Minimize conflict. Remind us the primary method for maintaining, refining the system of white supremacy is deception. There are lots of white people lying all the time. We heard one today for about 80 minutes? Close to 90 minutes. Lots of lies. The big one again, white people don't do no thinking about racism.
You're just saying just buckets and buckets of words.
Shout to justice for closing. Context of White Supremacy signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed.
I'm a victim, brother.
No problem. You're a victim.
I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Even my conditioning has been conditioned.